running for Attorney General because I will never be afraid to challenge this illegitimate president when our fundamental rights are at stake.
Oh, we're going to definitely sue him. We're going to be a real pain in the ass. He's going to know my name personally. Donald Trump may have authored the art of the deal, but he perfected the art of the steal.
And I'm not afraid of Donald Trump. You can come after me, but no enemy, nothing formed against me will perish. I'm not afraid of no president. Donald Trump, we're ready for you. We're coming for you. Stand up to an administration which is too male, too pale, and too stale. Too male, too pale, and too stale. Too male, too pale, and too stale. And we will not go away silently.
Well, talk about karma coming back to bite you in the ass. I mean, you know, to tell you, you reap what you sow, to the point on there. And I mean, this is the, we'll have to go down in history as the biggest, shuck and jive or basic con job that you've done, that basically New Yorkers have gone through. And who I'm talking about is Letitia James, the Attorney General of New York, who honestly, I don't like her. I just really don't like her. I didn't vote for her. You know, I've always said basically she was voted in on her, on her color, basically a DEI situation on there, because there were plenty other people that were better suited to the AG position in New York than Letitia James, because basically she, and as you sort of hear, she ran on just going after Trump. She had nothing else, just going after the president of the United States, Donald J. Trump. And the thing is, now, all the accusations and the case that basically she put forward against Donald Trump, she's now being accused of doing. Now understand this. From the Donald Trump point situation, all the evidence, which basically everyone has said, legal counsel has said, basically this was a miscarriage of justice. I mean, there's an appellate court that hasn't come back yet, but they've asked a lot of questions to that point. When nobody, you ask yourself, well, who did he hurt? Nobody. Remember, the banks that basically he took loans out of were paid back on time, in full, with the accruing interest paid off, and these banks had no problem giving a loan to Donald Trump. Why? Because he's Donald Trump. They've dealt business. They've made money with him. But see, this is the situation. Whether you like Donald Trump or not, okay, and you have to remember this. I grew up in the 60s, 70s, 80s. I grew up during the early days of Donald Trump. I was in when Donald Trump was getting on the basically television, all that. I was just getting into high school. He was well liked. He was on Oprah and all these people that used to love him, that now they've turned around and hated him. But yet they took pictures. They took his money when if they were a politician, the Clintons, everybody, and then now they talk really bad to the situation. Why? Because of the opinions he's had. Because now he's president and he's putting to the point to try to save this country, to save the republic. Whether you agree with it or not, and you're allowed to disagree, and that's okay. That's how we can have a good conversation. But you have people out there fabricating situations like what Letitia James has done. But meanwhile, it's the situation of do as I say, not as I do. Remember that point. Remember to that point. But before we get into this, because we got a great little piece from a columnist from the New York Post who talks about Letitia James and how, basically her mood, as they say. I just want to remind you all to comment, like, share, and hey, listen, don't forget to hit that subscribe button. It's very important. All of you on YouTube and Rumble, these are things we talk about. Some things we try to let others talk about first, to the point on there. We try to put our content that is original. For example, we did the Ron Jeremy, a story on Ron Jeremy, that basically there was a settlement reached on the bar. That's coming out very soon, and many other stories that you may not hear in the mainstream, but sometimes we will pick up something that's important, like something out of New York to that point. And this happens to be something that is very important, because New York has been in crisis for such a long time, and we continue. And, the one thing about this city is they keep rehiring the same people all the time. And this has got to stop. You got to remember, the last past election, 45% of the people in New York went Republican. 45%. And this is a Democratic state. This state is, a good chunk of this state is liberal. A large chunk. Staten Island, different story to that point. But once again, thank you. Thank you for those out there. But the thing is, let's take a moment and find out what she's, the accused of. Let's take it from the media itself. Roll the tape.
It appears New York's Attorney General has lied about her principal residency, lied about rental income, lied about the number of units in a townhouse she owns to gain a lower interest rate. Also indications she flew private on taxpayer dime for campaign events, and claimed that her dad was her husband for special benefits on a mortgage. There are an array of allegations here, and they all seem very, very solid. Again, it's an amazing story. And knowing all of this, and she did know all of this because she's the one that did it.
And, this is situations to that point. And before we continue on to the other half of this story, because most people will say, well, this was Trump trying to get on there. Actually, it was someone outside the box who's not a Trump voter, to the point, that put this through and was posting this online for quite some time. Someone who basically knows the ways around cheating the banks, cheating the system, and he's very familiar with that. But before we get into that, I just want to read this off of the New York Post. Now, there is a columnist named Andrea Pizer, who's one on there, who has had some dealings with some run-ins, actually. And this is an opinion piece that she's had run-ins with Letitia James. The article is, the Tish James I know is a bully and a hypocrite. I first ran into the little-known New York City councilwoman named Letitia James in the aughts at a Brooklyn news conference about rapper Foxy Brown. It seems Foxy has been busted again over some bad behavior. And among the people who came out to defend her was James, whose real agenda had nothing to do with the hip-hop or the crime. It was all about making a name for herself, and she did, for all the wrong reasons. James, who I never met or even heard of, made a beeline for me at the event and started haggling me, but not about the troubled recording artist. She was furious about my columns supporting the still unbuilt Barclays Center, which I believe would revitalize the decrepit swath of Brooklyn and bring high-profile entertainment and jobs to a place where they were desperately needed, which it has. James was one of the project's most ardent opponents, and she demanded that I change my tune. I told her that my columns were merely a reflection of my deeply held opinion. Besides, I said, I really don't think it's appropriate that she confront me over something unrelated to the rapper in question, and attempted to walk away. But James followed me, continuing her unglued rant. She wouldn't get it out of my face. I thought she was nuts. Barclays, of course, did get built and turned out to be a major success, putting a dent in the unemployment in in local housing projects and bring world-class acts like JC, Barbra Streisand, just to name the two, to the center of Brooklyn. And James, who later profoundly became the first woman of color elected to citywide office as a public advocate, suddenly dropped her opposition, angering her fellow protesters. It seems that sucking up to powerful developers as she climbed up the political food chain was more important than her supposed beliefs. So I am unsurprised that the Attorney General, who railed against Donald Trump's alleged business fraud, is being accused of a similar behavior. James, the pretended fighter for the little people, apparently declared that a house she bought in Virginia in 2023 was her primary residence, though as New York top prosecutors, she was required by law to live in the state. And that's true. Stop there for just a moment. Understand this. She was claiming her residence was a legal resident of Virginia. You can't do that. You can't really do that and be Attorney General of New York. That's why, back years ago when the Clintons moved to New York because they wanted to run in politics in New York, they had to live here. Plain and simple. Continuing on, more bizarrely, she's accused of purchasing another property with her father as a co-signer, but falsely listed the pair as husband and wife in 1983 and 2000. All this allegedly to get cheaper mortgage rates. She could face criminal charges. Whatever the outcome of these allegations, James will likely live to regret her infamous declaration she aimed at Trump. No matter how big, rich, or powerful you think you are, no one is above the law. I like to add this: no matter how big or rich and powerful you think you are, hypocrites will always be exposed. So maybe think twice before you scold or harass a president or real estate developers or journalists, and look in the mirror. Bravo, Andrea. You hit it right on the nose on that article. And the thing is, they say that, well, this is coming down from the Trump administration, that they put this all together. Well, I'm going to give you the other half of this point where this came from. See, there are those of us out there that are doing our job that the media refuses to do. That we sit there day and night, we're going through paperwork, through interviews, to find the story, to find the truths of what is going on in our country. It doesn't matter who you ask to the situation, whether it's a small YouTuber or a major YouTuber, like Tim Pool or Steven Crowder to point. But in this case, person responsible for posting a lot of this stuff, a man named Sam Antar. Wait a minute, Sam Antar. Where have I heard that name before? That seems to be very familiar.
It's Crazy Eddie's greatest stereo sale ever. Get anything and everything in stereo equipment. Get it all now during Crazy Eddie's greatest stereo sale ever. Crazy Eddie, his prices are insane.
Yes, one of the co-founders of Crazy Eddie, relative of Eddie, the late Eddie Antar, basically that Sam, both of them were basically found guilty of their crimes for basically cooking the books. But these days, Sam has become more of sort of an expert. If you ever watch Catch Me If You Can, if you remember that story where they hired the guy down there to help him with the checks. Well, Sam Antar has come across to be an expert for basically the U.S. government and state to states to show what, if something doesn't smell right, he'll point it out to you. And in this case, Sam has put it to this perspective. Let him put it in his own words.
All right. We have a great guest tonight. Sam Antar is a forensic accountant who has a very colorful past we'll dig into here in a bit. He is the man that dug all of this up on Letitia James. He's the source of all this information. Sam, thank you so much for joining us here on the set.
Thank you for having me on, sir.
You're a New Yorker. You live right down the street, and this is some fantastic work here. I want to start and get into the specifics first. starting with this Virginia property that she claimed as her primary residence while she was, I mean, this is Norfolk, Virginia. This is probably a 5-6 hour drive, claiming it's her primary residence while she's the AG of New York. From your report, you say James signed a specific power of attorney declaring her intent to make 604 Sterling Street in Norfolk, Virginia, her principal residence, a legally binding statement that may have automatically vacated her position as New York Attorney General under Public Officers Law 30. A declaration that came just 45 days before she launched her case, her civil fraud case against Donald Trump. Tell us more about what happened in Virginia here.
She purchased a property with a relative. This is in 2023, a few weeks. She closed
2 years
on,
ago, yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
She closed on it right before the Trump trial. And in the filed documents with the county clerk's office, there was a power of attorney that she gave her cousin or niece to close the mortgage.
Yep.
And on the power of attorney, she represented that I intend to use this property as my primary residence. Now, there's two problems with that. The first problem is she lied on a power of attorney. Would anybody really believe that she was going to move to Virginia in the middle of the Trump trial? Second part is there's section 6 of the mortgage that states that the borrower, meaning her and her niece, have to occupy the property as their primary residence within 60 days. Not one or the other, both.
Wow.
She at least never occupied it. Right. That's
and what was the motivation to do this? Why lie?
Lower interest rates.
Lower interest rates.
I'd call her a petty thief.
A petty thief. This is, I mean, this is, when you look at the allegations she made against Trump, is this act worse, better, same?
Well, no. Listen, Trump is not a real felon. I'm a real felon. Okay, so so Trump didn't do anything wrong.
Yeah. You don't see anything wrong in the case you made against Trump? You think, I mean, obviously, the jury here thought that he did something wrong.
Well, listen.
It seems like what every developer has ever done.
You should have listened to the appellate arguments because the appellate judges seem to be. It seems like they're going to write an opinion that's going to vacate the entire case.
Yeah. And that's all. That's really, you have a situation to this point. This is what our problem is here in New York. We have politicians. We have crooked politicians. You have people that are in our courts, district attorneys, attorney generals that are not doing their proper job. They either been bribed out or basically they're committing crimes on there. Now, as far as Mayor Adams, do I agree on his dismissal? No, I don't agree with it, but I think it was rushed, and I think this will come back to him eventually, because there are still other cases pending to that point. Most people ain't talking about the 5 or 6 other cases that are separate from this main one that he had. And then you have other politicians throughout the city of New York, and of course Governor Hochul, who's had questionable dealings situation, to the point with the Medicaid system as well, and many other things that have been going on with New York. With the cannabis situation on there, as far as the farms are failing to the point that they're still trying to push the situation, which it needs to be shut down. It needs completely to be shut down onto that point. But that's one of about 1,000 things that's going on in here in New York. And Letitia James has just moved to the top of that pile. What's going to happen? It's going to have to be dealt with an investigation and a court case. Innocent until proven guilty, and I've always said that, innocent until proven guilty. But in this case, the way the evidence has been flying, and the way Sam Antar has put out there, it's not looking good for Letitia James. My recommendation, resign at this point. This evidence is too damning to the point. We're at criminal referral at this time. And it's going to move up. No matter how much that she's going to try to push this off, how much she's going to get in front of a camera and try to blame Trump to the situation. You violated the law. You bought a home and falsified paperwork to it. You bought another place where he said, well, we only got four places to live and not 5. Did you pay the taxes on that? Because that's another question. That is the IRS. That's an IRS situation too, as well. Because when you submit a paper document and housing and stuff like that, and you falsify documents, the IRS is going to come up and creep up in your ass.
Crazy enough to take on Batman, but the IRS, no, thank you.
That happens. That normally happens. IRS is always sitting there in the background, knocking on the door. You know, it's crazy if you want to deal with the IRS to that point. But I'll put it to this point. This has got to be resolved immediately and put new laws into shape that this doesn't happen again. And to my fellow New Yorkers, whether what borough you live in, and I'm talking to you also too, Staten Island, you're not getting out of this either. The next ballot box, pay attention who's going to be running for mayor, who's going to be running for governor, who's going to be running for AG. Pay attention to that. Properly go out and vote. Do your due diligence. Note what you've been through already. You might not like the politician that's on the opposite end that's promising you better, but maybe it's time you look in that direction instead of going back to the same old song. Or as Led Zeppelin song remains the same? You don't want to have it remain the same. The city's hurt. It's on life support. It's about time we bring this city back to the way it was. Bring back as much as you don't like Giuliani, but let's bring it back to a Giuliani safe period. Because right now, New York is not safe. Not safe at all. Perfect example, what's going on in the subway, what's going on in the streets. Women being attacked, hit with a bottle in the hand and try to stab. You have someone who died in the subway get mugged while he's dead, and then someone else comes along and sexually abuses the dead body. You can't make this shit up. This is happening. Then you have government agencies and separate, like the MTA, that's just basically wasting money, asking for more money to try to put a Band-Aid on our transportation system, which it needs a massive overhaul. It needs a Doge inspection review. We need our own Doge to go into their books because they're cooked. They're cooked as well. So when you get to that ballot box, remember who you're voting for. Are you happy the way the city's being run right now? If you say no, then don't vote for the same people. Vote for someone else. Remember, all the ones that are on the left right now are the same people that have given you the problems that you had currently. Whether it's Andrew Cuomo, whether it's Eric Adams, whether it's Adrian Adams, or anybody else that's listed on there that's running for mayor. Remember that. Is Claire Siwa a better choice? Possibly. I'd rather give him a chance than most of these others that are listed. So once again, comment, like, share, and hopefully today's the day I've earned your subscription. So until next time, thank you for tuning in. We'll see you on the next video, and bye-bye now.